Well, good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Weekend Box Score Swing Trade Notes Edition. Of course, at the end of the presentation, please review our disclosures. Well, I'm directional. However, being bearish is right here. I mean, if support doesn't hold, we're probably continuing the next leg lower, but I don't believe that it's going to be that significant at this point. I think we need a catalyst, so that's sort of my thought. However, I think market conditions do warrant specifically the dollar and my most recent count on the dollar, which is now coming in at 108.82. So that will be a lot of heat on indices. So I think we need to start preparing for that. We really won't have confirmation that move is going to occur, so we get a push up to about 106. So that should weigh heavily on indices. Then we should break down and get a little pop. Okay, and how low that dollar goes there, it could broaden, become an ending diagonal here. So we could be choppy here, but I do expect some extremes. So, as far as hedgings, I made some notes in Global Trends ETF in the chat about how you could hedge. Specifically, I like IWM, DIA, or SPY. I don't like SQQ right now because the count does not support higher. So, I'm sort of avoiding the Qs, partially for that reason. Obviously, as the market draws down, obviously our quality is going to become important again. So this push in the dollars has also generated a new count on TLT. I will be covering my few contracts that I have long right after the opening range, looking for maybe 91.50 in that range, and I'm out. And then we'll look at entering again back around 85 or maybe even around 87, depending on where I start seeing a bottom there on this. My bias is going to be to follow the counts because they're usually right many more times than I am, no matter what I feel. So it looks to me like we're just going to bleed a little bit more. I would like one more good flush. If this leg just pushes one more good time, then I might jump back on board. But right now, I think there is some downside. All right, looking at earnings this week, Micron on Wednesday after the close should be intriguing. I think it determines whether or not chips hold up or not, to be very candid. And, there seems to be a little weight there. DaVita, has got a very negative looking chart. I got to count down to 277 on that, which we'll cover in just a minute. CarMax is another one that I like to watch. And Carnival also is going to have my attention at the end of the week. If they've recovered a little bit, they've got a lot of room to the upside still. However, I'm going to have a hard time chasing anything long in the market right where we are. So let me jump into that. Vail, it's done nothing wrong at this point. We're at 13.75 when I printed this. We're only looking for $15 and we got plenty of time, out till November. So we're holding at this point. It gets down, maybe one or two candles below there, 12.75, then I might cut it, take my losses and go from there. But at this point, I think it does grind and heads a little bit higher. Now looking at the IWM. Now, let me just break down what I've got here. We're in a bearish primary wave 3. So our 3 is way the heck down here. This is 2. This is 3. So this is an entire downtrend now. Target is about 147. I've got 165 puts I've been building on. They're up from, I think I paid like 67 cents a piece for them, and they were like 80 cents last time I looked at them. So, 7-8%, whatever that is, 10%. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go that deep. I'm just building a very deep position there because that's what I decided to build. Once we get this back test on this minor wave 4, so it looks like maybe we go into this week, get a little bit downwards, maybe we get a turnaround Tuesday a little bit, and then we continue lower. Just watch the counts. If we don't back test at specific support zones, then we're just going to accelerate. And that's what you want to watch for on the tape. So, but I've got November 165. So I've got plenty of time out there on November as far as IWM. Now, Qualcomm's just setting up for me here. My thesis is, add on a breakdown once we get the breakdown at the 8th day. Right now, I've only got runners, so, we'll go from there this week. CBRE is working. Now, this is going to be challenging because our intermediate wave 3 is at 72 and our intermediate wave 4 is at 79. So, really, I'm going to pretty much take profits, run a tight trailing stop here, just to try and catch it if it's going to continue to flush to support, because it has the potential of doing that here. Look at this candle. We get another good candle right down there, and I'd like to be part of that if I catch it. If not, I'm probably going to try and reload on that 4 to the downside because I do think it'll be a little bit longer that we're in that. XHB is working. Now we're maybe down to this 3, then we bounce back a little bit, head towards 72. That's the look. Airbnb, I'm still mixed because this looks to me like a wedge that we break up will take us up and out. I wasn't expecting this being listed in the S&P, and that really sort of screwed up the whole trade. I'd already taken profits on half and I had a trailing stop on the rest. So we landed pretty well. We actually were taken out before that news on the S&P, so we were a little lucky there. So I do like it to the downside because as long as the rental numbers, the income numbers keep declining, it's going to have an effect on Airbnb, and we should hear that when earnings come out. So at this point, I've got runners. That's it, just so I can watch it, and we'll go from there. ADC, we're almost at target. Roughly 54.50. I'm going to start trimming around 55. That was an ad we made to the same thesis on real estate. Now, realize that is a cycle wave 2 ABC. So, we could get a nice back test on this, but I would suspect that we keep bleeding with market conditions. Now, to the S&P, which is the most important part here. Note our count is below our trend support here. So, drive 1, drive 2, drive 3 can always be an overshoot, and that looks like what we get here. Now, that's going to be a leading diagonal here. Only because they're so hard to predict. They really are. They can be shallow, they can be deep. I really don't have a lot of conviction on them, so I don't like to trade them. However, the SPY right now is a good head if you're holding common positions in a varied number of stocks. So selling at the money, buying at the money puts, or buying up here around this 4 or the 8 day, you're a little more conservative, or selling covered calls if you have common shares. Right now, we want to start hedging as a percentage and building on that if the market continues in a downward fashion. Now, looking at the NASDAQ right now, SQQ says we're not going any higher than what we have on the I think it was $20.58 or whatever the high was. And right now, the NASDAQ count suggests we're going down to maybe 354, and then we continue back up on our uptrend. So again, the flight to quality is going to become very important as people get skittish with this market. So looking at crypto, Bitcoin, we're right here at that 2023 support line again. Well, it's actually a resistance line, but from this breakout, that was our support, and then we broke below it, been tested a number of times. There's really nothing else there. You can come down and say this is our resistance band here, which I don't have drawn, but it just made it more noisy for me. So I think we hold. I don't see, we need a catalyst, I think, from the SEC or something to pop us lower. GBTC, came off a little bit at the end of the week, maybe down to 1750, I think. So I'll be aggressively adding a little bit there. We get down to that number. Again, that still only has a 17% spread between the price of GBTC and spot. So that's ultimately what I'm trying to capture there. It's turning into be a marathon, but hey, it's what it is. Looking at Ethereum, now we're back below our support band here. And really, there's nothing that would prohibit us going back to $1,000. Count doesn't see that. Count sees 1517, which is already in, and then 2777. So time will tell who's right. All right, looking at XRP, I still like this, and I'll just leave it at that. And that's what we have for this week, folks. Great trading. Until next time.